Well, first of all, just take me through the process of preparing for a draft. Obviously, we don't see most of it. We kind of get a shot in the war room here and there, but when does it start, and what's kind of your philosophy in going through it?
Well, the process starts basically in May of every spring, and we start off with somewhere between 7,000 and 10,000 names of the college prospects. And throughout the fall and the winter months, our scouts will go out and they'll attend all the college games and college visits at the universities. And then we'll lead into the all-star games, and then we'll come to the combine and really narrow down our list of players. So we start off with somewhere between 7,000 and 10,000, and then ultimately we end up on our draft board with somewhere between 500 and 700 players.
And how different does the board end up looking right before the first round of the draft, relative to what it looked like, say, in January?
Well, I mean, it always is changing a little bit, and there's different parts of the evaluation that you have to look at, and I always try to refer to what I see on tape. A lot of times I'll say that we, as scouts, we go out in the fall and we fall in love with these players. Then in the springtime, we look at all the measurables and we confuse ourselves because so many guys can be really good players on tape, but they're not such great test athletes. And at the end of the day, the eye in the sky doesn't lie. You have to watch the film. And then the part of the puzzle to me it's so good is the combine, because of the fact that we get to know these kids as people. And I've said many times before that we miss more on the person than we miss on the player, meaning that the hardest part of player evaluation is judging the heart and the mind. And to me, 15 minutes doesn't always get it done to talk to these players at Indy. You have to fly them in to your facility in the spring to answer whatever questions you may have about the player, whether it's the mental part of the game or it's off-field concerns.
Yeah, because it's speed dating here, right?
No question. Yeah, and these guys are trained like robots to give you stamped answers, and you try to get them off their game a little bit. And but it's a fun part of the process because, again, so many times when we go on the campuses during the fall, we don't have as much access to the players to get to know them as people. You just hear about their backgrounds, what their family life is, and then you come here and you really get to answer all the questions you may have had.
And when you try to get them off their game, is that you? Is that Bruce Arians? Is that both?
It's all of us collectively, and we have some stamped questions that each player has to answer, and it all can be dealing with different parts of their off-field issues, whether they've been suspended, arrested, whether they failed out of school. So there's so many things that go into this process, which makes it fun.
And you like guys who tell the truth no matter what they did, correct?
Absolutely, yeah, no doubt about it. And this has gotten so big, and the player evaluation part of it has gotten so serious that so many people are using former FBI agents to dig up background. All of our teams have security checks. So at the end of the day, we're going to find out the information. You just want to see if the player is going to come clean and tell you about some of the things that have happened in their lives that you may have some concerns about.
You drafted 2 drafts ago Tyrann Mathieu,
right,
who was considered a big character risk,
right,
for outsiders. Take me through the process of getting to know him and what made you comfortable.
Well, I mean, and it was funny because it was my first draft as the general manager, and going into the process, hearing about Tyrann and having that certain perception, it was a no way. There's no way that we're going to take this guy. But as I started to watch the tape and realize that this guy is just a ball hawk, he's got an uncanny way about making plays. And I said, okay, well, let's bring him into Phoenix and let's just talk to him and hear his story. And when he came in and he sat down, and he went to dinner actually with me at a local steakhouse. And
Which one?
Fleming's. And my son, who was at the time 6 years old, was with me. And about halfway through dinner, he's tugging at my shirt, telling me how cool Tyrann was and how he approved. So to this day, he tries to take credit for that pick. But when you talk to Tyrann, you saw the passion that he had for the game. You saw how much he missed it when he got kicked out of school. And to me, when you have guys who have made some mistakes, because again, we've all made mistakes in our lives, it's how you bounce back. And if you're as passionate as Tyrann is about the game, to me, you have a chance to point those guys in the right direction.
Did you just get stuck on daddy duty, or did you bring your son for a purpose?
That was a combination, I think.
I mean, because in a way, like, you see how a guy reacts to that situation, and you learn something about it.
Yeah, no, and he's great with kids, and that's what we talk about now. Is here's a guy who was probably off quite a few teams' draft boards. he did have those character concerns. And at the end of the day, right now, he's one of the best guys in our locker room, one of the best natural leaders, and he's, again, as passionate as they come. I mean, he constantly texts me, not only about his game, but about other players that he sees that he likes. And when you have football junkies like that, and we have quite a few, whether it's Pat Peterson, Larry, Carson, those guys are constantly texting me about players, and I love it because it just goes to show the type of character we have in our locker room.
And being able to talk to Pat Peterson about Tyrann, how important was that?
Extremely, because, you know, when Pat came in to our program and we drafted Pat the 5th overall pick, the minute he got through baggage claim, he was a pro. I mean, he's a responsible, very mature young man. And so to hear it from his mouth, it just was an added level of trust, you know, for me and for the organization. And to know that Pat, you know, through whatever Tyrann's been through, Pat would always be there for him. And I know Pat's family was very close to him as well.